Greetings, you folks that have been following USA Citizens Network Group, a group that I'm a part of. I'm an attorney. My name is Bob Rust. Uh, USA Citizens Network Group is dedicated to providing a forum, a place for people that know what they're talking about, that have credentials on sensitive subjects that far too often have not received the kind of attention they should receive from the major media sources, sometimes flat out just ignored. We've had past podcasts on the questions of election integrity, questions of doctors' independence from the hospital systems, questions of what's happening in our educational system. We've also had a couple of very interesting interviews with Mr. Dennis Atiyeh, who is with us tonight for our third go-around. Dennis has got quite a background himself. He went to the University of Pittsburgh, played first string all four seasons, went to every major bowl you can think of, was a top collegiate wrestler, actually wrestled also in the Olympics. Great family man, great businessman. With 8 children. I think it's 3 boys and 5 daughters, all of whom are athletes. If not all, most of them Division I, which is really something to say. And he's got a great passion for what's happening or not happening in the athletic scene from K through 12, college, NFL. In the prior podcast, which I encourage you to see, we talked about what's happening with women in sports, straight women who are having, after sacrificing to get where they are, losing positions to people from the LPG movement, males, so-called males, so-called females acting what are actual males in the sport. We also focused on what's been happening in the way that money has come into the system and how it is tainting and really harming the whole athletic program. We're going to go even deeper today. And accompanying Dennis today is Mr. Andrew Kardos, who you see. Andrew is a younger fellow. He's also participated in sports, lacrosse. He's coached lacrosse. He is a Penn State grad, double major, really smart young man when it comes to IT work. He does not only websites, but he does much in the area of social media promotion. And he has done some research that I think you're going to find quite revealing. We're going to try to move the program along because we know that people are busy. But we're going to start with Dennis, and I'm going to jump in a bit, so will Andrew. But Dennis has got some messages he wants to get across starting with this program. So, Dennis, I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Attorney Russ, Bob. Hey, great show, man. We got some real good stuff for you guys. We're talking heavyweight wrestling, We're going to talk about the Ivy League, how they're getting robbed for you smart, preppy guys. And, we're going to really cover some great stuff today. We got some great stats that Andrew's going to bring to the table. But, I'm going to go right into the heavyweight division. We have the NCAA championships coming up here in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania. Andrew, we were talking earlier how, Penn State has become the center of wrestling in the world. It's awesome. And now we have the national championships right down the street in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So, and right now, as we speak, they're preparing for the PIAA state championships in Pennsylvania, which is huge. I mean, there's 2 kids, I believe, from Pennsylvania now that regretfully are going to get paid $2.5 million, one to wrestle at Penn State and one to wrestle at Iowa. So it's crazy what's going on. But I'm going to get right into the heavyweight division here. As we spoke about in our show last week, the last time, there's men being paid to wrestle heavyweight right now. We have a fella by the name of Stevenson, who Olympic gold medalist, God bless him. I love the kid, national champ, goes and signs with the bullshit wrestling, the fake wrestling, the WWE, gets a big multi-million-dollar contract. That don't work out. He goes and tries out for the Buffalo Bills, and the NCAA, believe it or not, Andrew and Rob, they're going to let the guy wrestle. Like 8 years later, millions of dollars later, the guy's wrestling. I mean, give another guy a chance. So the NCAA is just continues to fumble. That's all they're doing is fumbling. And then, we got this great heavyweight from Penn State who's a returning national champ, great kid. I love the kid. I mean, he's just an awesome kid, but he's getting paid. He's getting paid big money to wrestle, and he's in his 7th year. Then you throw in, we got a foreigner from Rutgers wrestling. He's in the top 10. He's from one of these, Eastern Bloc countries. Who knows how old he is? Who knows if his records are accurate? So here at heavyweight, in that weight class alone this year, we have 3 individuals that I believe shouldn't even be wrestling this year. I mean, look, move on, go hit the UFC, go hit MMA stuff, go play football, do fake wrestling, but give another heavyweight a chance. That's 3 opportunities. We live in the great state of Pennsylvania, New Jersey. Wow, awesome wrestling. Ohio, New York, the whole country we got awesome heavyweights. Now, why are these 3 guys wrestling in the heavyweight division? They shouldn't be there. As much as I respect them and love them, the NCAA just continues to blunder and let foreigners come in and wrestle and take a possible medal or championship away from our local guys. Remember, it's the NCAA. A couple of my buddies love this this phrase that I coined, not the ICAA. It's not the International Collegiate Athletic Association. So we can't have foreigners coming in and stealing our young men, our athletes, and trust me, we talked about this the last show, Bob. I mean, there's boatloads of them coming in. My daughter on her road team had 5 foreigners on her road team. 5 on her at Cornell. 5 girls were foreigners. So if you really look into this, soccer, field hockey, I mean, you can name the sport from A to Z, baseball. These foreigners are coming in. There's a foreign invasion that's got to stop. And looking at the heavyweight division right now, I would tell you guys, there's other problems. Look, if a 100-pound kid can wrestle, all right, why can't a 300-pound kid wrestle? So right now they got this. They lowered. It used to be unlimited. When I wrestled, it was unlimited. And up to recently, they changed it over that there's a 285-pound limit at heavyweight. Okay, I'm totally against it. If there's anything we want big guys wrestling. We want those 300-pounders working out, getting in shape. Me and Andrew talked about it earlier today. I mean, look, we that kid who's in high school, if he weighs 300 pounds, if he wrestles, he's going to lose maybe 10, 20 pounds naturally. But if he don't, he's going to be 330 pounds. So he becomes obese. He becomes a diabetic threat, and he becomes a liability to himself and to our country. So that rule has to change. And I would tell you, and fast, they used to have these monster heavyweights, and everybody would always be so excited about them. They had this guy, Chris Taylor. You remember Chris Taylor, Bob? He was from Iowa State. Yes. He was a monster. When that guy walked, when I was a kid, when that guy walked into the room where he was on TV, it was like, wow, look at this man, Mountain Dean. You know what I'm saying to you? And he was awesome wrestler. We had this other guy, Tacker from NC State. Wow, it was like, and both of them had awesome careers in athletics, and they went on to be movies. A bunch of movies. They were, they had a great life. Now, had those 2 guys not wrestled, they would have ended up being, obese, beyond obese, and they would have ended up dying at an earlier age due to not competing in athletics. And I really think that rule needs to be changed. They need to open up the weight class. When I wrestled a guy in Pennsylvania for the state championship. He was 6'8", 368 pounds at the weigh-in day. 6'8", 368 pounds. I beat him. He went on to have a career in the fake wrestling, in that fake wrestling stuff, and he was active but had he not, he's a big country boy, he's a farm boy. Had he not wrestled, what would have happened to him? So if a 100-pound kid can wrestle, hey, I'm talking to you guys that run the NCAA. If a 100-pound guy can wrestle, why can't a 300-pound guy wrestle? You got to change that rule. And then the 3-point change, as you guys know, forever, it was 2 points for a takedown. You take a guy down, it's a 2-point takedown. Now they have it where it's a 3-point takedown. Now at heavyweight, that's a game changer. It changes the whole philosophy of the heavyweight wrestling. So now if you give up 3 points, now you're a chaser. Because when you gave up 2 points, you can escape and you can ride them out, tie the match at 2-2, maybe get into overtime and get another shot. But at 3 points, man, the guys are so big and so defensive, you can't make it up. So they're ruining heavyweight wrestling because then a guy wants to chase and he's got a counter. And before you know it, the match is far gone and it's boring and it's not exciting. So for my opinion, they need to definitely change the rule from being a 2-point takedown. Look, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We all heard that saying. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. It wasn't broken. Don't fix it. Go back to takedowns, 2 points, not 3 points, and back points the same. 2 to 3 points, not 4 points for back points, because it's blowing the matches wide open, and the lesser wrestlers are being harmed. The better wrestlers are getting more tech falls, and it just ain't right. So in my opinion, that really needs to change. And I would tell you, lastly, with ties, I have a problem with ties. So, and even in football, Andrew, I mean, we talked about this today. You get a tie in a wrestling match. Now, the guy just lost weight to make weight. So now he's exhausted. Now you're going to put him into overtime, right? He's going to wrestle. He already wrestled 7 minutes. I mean, God, Attorney Russ, to wrestle 7 minutes, you know what that takes. It takes, wow, you have to be a man Mountain Dean to wrestle 7 straight minutes, right? So now the match is tied. It should be over. It should be over. These guys are there to get an education. They're not there to tear themselves apart and run themselves into the ground, get injured, get sick. No. 2 points. Each guy gets 2 points. You had a draw. You're going to see them in the tournaments. Now, in tournaments, you have to do some sort of overtime. I'm all right with that, tournament time. But ties have to end. It's dumb. Look, use common sense, you NCAA guys. And I know you're going to watch this, and that's why I'm being a little bit rough on you guys. Just use common sense. The guys right now that are running our country, they're saying just use common sense, right? So it should be the same thing in athletics. Just use common sense. So, I would tell you, those are my thoughts at the heavyweight division, and those things need to change now. And we can't have foreigners. Again, we're not the ICAA. We're the NCAA. That federal money needs to go to our kids. We need to make our American athletes great again, not foreign athletes great again. So, with that being said, I know Andrew has done some research on guys getting paid. I mentioned they got these 2 wrestlers. Their names are they're from Bassett and Blaze. The guys are millionaires. They haven't wrestled a college match, right? I mean, doctors and attorneys and professionals work and kill themselves. They go to college for 10 years and they're 50 years old. They're not making $1 million. Here's guys that never wrestled a college match. You know all about the guys playing football that never even played a football game in college, and they're millionaires. And that's what we've been talking about.
So, has Andrew got some things to tell us in that regard?
Yeah. So, from a football's perspective, I know everyone's very familiar with the ranking system, the 5-star, 4-star kids that are coming out, and everyone's really excited when you sign one of these big names. in the last few years, with the NCAA coming out and really starting to, what's the word, lack leadership at the position, and now with NIL and everything moving in here, it really just changes everything. It changes your
Andrew, excuse me, what's
yeah,
NIL?
name, image, and likeness.
What does it
So
mean?
it basically means it's the ability for the players to make and profit on their name, image, and likeness.
Okay,
So
go ahead.
it's a whole it's a whole thing because it starts off with a really good intention, as most things do. We want these kids to be able to, afford, if the university is making millions of dollars off of selling your jersey with your name on the back of it and your number, and you're going out there and you're producing and bringing in multi-million-dollar deals, and having these universities being able to sign hundreds of millions of dollars of TV contracts. For example, the Big Ten, I think last year, made $880 million in revenue.
Crazy.
So that money all's got to go somewhere. Now, the leadership at the NCAA is what we're talking about. We're not talking about the kids making money. They should, if you're generating almost $1 billion, it's got to go somewhere. Where does it go? How do you allocate those funds, and how do you do it appropriately to help the kids, help the institutions, help everybody? That's really the thing. So everyone's familiar with, you want to get that 5-star kid, you want to get the big names and everything like that. So as far as football goes, the 5-star quarterbacks that everybody knows their names coming out of high school. They go to Alabama, they go to Texas, they go to the big name schools, Ohio State, and those kids coming out of school, I ran the numbers. Over the last 10 years, there's been 31 5-star quarterbacks. It's a different number every year. So it's not a set, there's 10 5-star quarterbacks every year. It always fluctuates. So there's anywhere between, 5, 6 to 1 at sometimes, 5-star quarterbacks. Over the last 10 years, from 2014 up until 2025, there's been 31. Of those 31, 5 have gone in the first round of the NFL draft. That's 16%. So when you break it down like that and you say, okay, that's all well and good, and that's the number that actually make it to the league, and that's how you can see from a developmental standpoint, the rigors of college athletics, let alone, going to school, being a student athlete, everything that comes along with that. But now you're adding in the pressures of millions of dollars. And when you're signing an NIL deal at 17 years old, when you're signing your letter of intent to go to a school, it's coming with a price tag. And God bless the kids for being able to do that. And they live in a time where that's the rules. What we're saying is the NCAA needs to have a program set up where it's fair, and that's starting to come around with revenue sharing and all that, but it's the Wild West out there. It truly is. So, for example, a couple years back, there was a kid, I believe it was Miami quarterback, and he was going to make $5 million. That was the offer. That was the rumor that was out there. It never went through, blah, 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 for whatever reasons. But when that happens, not only do you have the pressure with $5 million being set on this kid's head, 17 years old, he's in high school. We were all in high school at one point. The pressures of just being 17 years old are enough, let alone being a high profile athlete, let alone having a $5 million check on your hands. Now you have that pressure moving into college. Going in as a freshman, we all know it, you're not physically developed enough. Some are. Some people are, and that's fantastic, but that's not the average, or for most of us. So when you come into college as a freshman and you got this big price tag on your head, now you're really sitting there and you're saying, okay, well, now I have to perform. But not only just for me, not just for my family, not just for my name, but now I need to perform because there's an expectation with a dollar sign attached to it. And when you start adding all that up and all that pressure, it can't be good. Mentally, we in this country, I mean, we all know we have an epidemic. We have a mental health epidemic. We have a physical health epidemic. And adding that level of pressure to kids at that early stage when they're in such a developmental state isn't good. And if you don't go to a program that has a strong coaching staff, strong academic advisors, strong support for these kids, you can blow $5 million real easy. And people do, and we see it happen in the NFL all the time, in the NBA.
What were you going to say, Dennis?
Even, I mean, the percentage speaks for itself. 16% of the guys
16%.
make it. 16% make it. So they're ruining. They're not helping the kids. They're ruining the kids by giving them that money. And it's very clear. The coaches can only do so much, and the counselors can only do so much. But we see what happens with all of the professional athletes in general. Now, like you had just said, and this is something that Attorney Russ and I covered in our last program. I mean, what they're doing is they're ruining the kids. Do you understand? And I see them doing the same thing in wrestling now, and I'm sick about it. Here's these two young guys, that I mentioned their names earlier, and God bless them, but they haven't wrestled a real wrestler. I mean, don't get me wrong. They're competitive guys. They're young, but why put that burden on them? Why put the burden on these young athletes? Last show we talked about team. Together, everybody accomplishes more. You're so blessed. We're so blessed to have friends, to have camaraderie, to have those struggles and those hardships that St. Paul talks about that become our blessings. And I know, Andrew, you had talked about in the Cinderella teams. Let's talk about those Cinderella moments, in NCAA athletics, that happen, and the money's going to take that all away. Go ahead, talk about it.
Well, we were kind of saying how, everyone loves the tournament. Everyone loves NCAA basketball, March Madness. It's everyone's favorite time of year. It's the chaos that you get when you have pure, unbridled athleticism in their kids. Their kids out there running around. I know when I was in school, me and my friends, one of our favorite things was to watch the tournament, because it was like watching our peers out there, and we're sitting there, and it's like I like to say it's like you're watching real people play sports, because once you ascend to the professional ranks, you have the nutrition, you have the trainers, you have everything that you could possibly do to push the physical human body to the next level. And that's an amazing thing to watch. But that's not what we're talking about. What's amazing about the tournament and about collegiate athletics is that you're able to watch normal kids who, Fairleigh Dickinson University versus a North Carolina or a Duke or something, early stages of the tournament. And this kid comes out and just can't miss. Threes, boom, 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 all day long. And you're literally watching the best day of that person's life. And with NIL and all this stuff and all the additions, if you're going to start taking away from those smaller institutions to compete at that level, you're going to be stealing opportunities from kids like that. And not only in that moment, stealing that opportunity to have your moment in the sun, your one shining moment. That's the song, right? Instead of stealing that one shining moment, that person is going to use that opportunity years down the line for, throughout his life. That opens up all kinds of doors, all kinds of possibilities after graduation. After we were finished talking, Dennis, I thought about, remember the old NCAA commercials where they were talking about, the power of the student athlete, and their tagline was, we're student athletes and most of us will be going pro in something other than sports. And that is something that I don't think those commercials run anymore, but I'm pretty sure that tagline has kind of faded into history.
Yeah, the sacredness of it. That's what Bob and I talked about last week. But even going further into the Ivy League, we're talking football, we're talking all this money, but a lot of people don't know. Bob attended the University of the South. He told me an awesome story. I'm going to let him share that, but it also ties into the Ivy League wrestling right now. I'm really concerned for Ivy League wrestling, but I'm going to let Bob. I mean, look, it's in danger. They don't pay the kids in the Ivy League, and you can't transfer into an Ivy League school, but you can transfer out. But I'm going to let Bob, explain to you about the University of the South and the Ivy League. Traditionally, I mean, awesome athletics, but it stopped in a similar way. Bob.
Sure. A lot of people are not aware of the University of the South, also called Sewanee. It's owned by 28 Episcopal dioceses in the South, and it was a powerhouse back at the turn of the century. It's got a record that will never be broken in the schools that it beat. I mean, schools like Texas, Auburn, Alabama, etc. It was one of the charter members of the SEC. But over time, a couple things happened. The schools that they played were large enough at the beginning, but now they were huge. And not only that, athletic scholarships were starting to be given in the bigger schools. And this particular school did not believe in that. They stuck with, if you're going to be in sports, if you're doing it for the love of it, we're not going to have you be paid indirectly through an athletic scholarship. Long story short, even though it was a charter member of the SEC, it wasn't long before he had to drop out because it could no longer compete. Back in those days, and this will segue over to what Dennis would like to talk about, the Ivy Leagues were maybe a little bit bigger than Sewanee, but they were powerhouses in that time. Go ahead, Dennis, pick that up.
Well, as we spoke about Yale, Yale has more national championships than Alabama. Who would ever know that, right? So then you got Harvard and Princeton right behind in Penn. So top 10 national championships in football. But what killed them was what Attorney Russ was just talking about. They don't give scholarships. So to make the matter and to move it forward, here we got this Ivy League Wrestling League. They're like the number 2 conference. I mean, 4 years ago, men, they had 5 finalists in the National Wrestling Championships, And I know Andrew spoke that watching the NCAA basketball is the most exciting time of the year. I differ from him. It's wrestling. This time of the year, I start to sweat and I get all fired up. It's time for the NCAA wrestling championships. There'll be 100,000 nuts in Philadelphia having a blast watching wrestling in 2 weeks. So, but here's this great institution, the Ivy League Wrestling, and they've had awesome guys. My son went to Cornell, the only university, Penn State and Cornell now. Penn State had 2 national champs last year that they took it to 2 4-time national champions, 2 awesome wrestlers. But Cornell has 2 4-time national champions. And, 4 years ago, they had 3 Ivy League. That's Harvard and Princeton. Harvard's had plenty of national champs. I have a friend of mine up there who's the coach. Great coach. So now what they're doing, so when you go to an Ivy League school, you can't transfer in, men. So their admissions won't permit you, like you can't transfer from another school in. So this whole portal where these guys transfer out, they can transfer out of the Ivy League, which the number 2 ranked 198 pounder did, Cornell wrestler. He transferred to Michigan. He's the number 2 198 pounder right now. Harvard lost a kid to Rutgers. 3 years ago, to your alma mater, Andrew, Max Dean from Cornell transferred, national champ at Penn State. So here they are, right? They don't give full scholarships. They give financial aid. And, they don't pay their kids. So now they went from being, this top conference over the years. They built and developed it. A lot of men committed to it. And now, just like that, they're going to wash it down the drain because of these stupid NCAA rules and regulations that we all know have to change. And it's it's not just the women, it's not just males competing against females that they've blown it and have ruined that particular issue, changing the Title IX to letting males practice against females. So, and males can use females' bathrooms, and they say, well, what's the big deal? There's not a whole lot of males competing as females. Well, what they don't understand is when one competes, they hurt the team, they hurt the conference, they hurt the NCAA championships, they break all the records, and so they say, oh, there's only a few doing it. They don't know how many. Somebody estimated there's only like a dozen or so. But guess what? One dozen ruins thousands and thousands and thousands of other individuals who are competing and have to be humiliated to share a bathroom with a guy. I mean, for God's sake, these are the types of issues, Attorney Russ and Andrew, that really the NCAA is just failing the student athletes. They're failing the females, and it's very apparent. I mean, 21 stars, 5-star athletes, 16 of them, 31 of them,
31.
and 16%. 5 of them made it.
So
So that record speaks for itself.
Even as a booster or as someone who's donating money to your university, what type of return on investment is that? What type of ROI is that? You're like saying there's a 16% chance this kid's going to pan out, but like I'm going to need another $1 million next year too. But like, so you're just you keep burning cash, and it doesn't make any sense. There's no logical thinking to it. It's just you're praying that you have an endless funnel of money. But to your point about the conferences, it's a conference killer, because we're watching it play out right now. And as the Big Ten and the SEC keep garnering more and more teams, the Big Ten is up to 18 teams, right? So now they're flying all the way across the country. When this was all happening, my inner like sports fan was like super excited, because I'm like, I want to see Penn State, Oregon. I want to sit down on my couch on a Saturday and watch Penn State USC play. Like that's me. I'm not on the plane. I'm not flying across the country. I'm not dealing with logistics. I'm also, as a football fan, you're not thinking about women's volleyball. You're not thinking about softball or baseball or any type of sport that plays a series or has basketball, multiple games. These kids got to go to school at some point, right? I mean, I know with online classes, it's an availability, but you're not getting the same college experience. Now you're just doing a completely separate thing. I think
Andrew,
at Ohio State.
Let me jump in.
What?
Let me jump in. That's a point that I want to make sure is brought across to the audience. We've talked about football. We've talked about wrestling. We've talked about basketball, all big-time sports drawing people in. But I believe there are a few more sports in every school, whether it's golf, whether it's tennis, whether it's volleyball, whether it's soccer. What's happening as a result of what the NCAA has done, besides the fact of this portal system and robbing, having the kids get involved in this whole gambling scheme of going to one school or another, besides the attaining of them from giving them money in an inappropriate manner. What's happening to the rest of isn't NCAA supposed to deal with all sports?
It's a logistical nightmare.
And that is what Andrew is talking about. There's $900 million going to a conference. Every single sport, like the Southeastern Conference, where you're from, Attorney Russ, that you participated in with the University of the South, they don't even have wrestling. None of them. They don't have men's volleyball. None of them. They have really restricted the amount of sports that are available. Now look at these numbers. 5,500 universities, 20 million students, 60 million youth athletes, for all real numbers, but there's only 300,000 student athletes competing in the country. 300,000. So that's exactly the point you just brought up, Attorney Russ. All these monies and revenues. And I know the guys in D.C. are watching these programs that we're putting out. I communicated with them this past weekend. But what the killer is exactly the point you just made. We need more young men and young women competing in those sports. They need to be reinstated to all of the universities, and those $1 billion, it's close to $1 billion. So let me just go to and say $1 billion. That's like an NFL. That's like an NFL television contract. Those guys are making $4, $5, $6 billion off of television. So we got to stop paying the athletes. We got to stop paying these coaches these outrageous contracts. Okay, and this needs to happen under by force if we have to. You know, we have to get a congressional investigation. We need to get the Senate involved, and we need to get the President of the United States involved, because amateur American athlete, the beautiful sport that Andrew and you and I know, are going to hell because of the NCAA's failure to just keep the traditional values and protocols that have been instituted for hundreds of years. And again, my tagline today: if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know, and they're trying to fix something, and boy, they're ruining it, miserably ruining it. And this is what needs to occur. With them billions of dollars that they're making, all these conferences, they need to spend it on from baseball, basketball. They've dropped baseball programs. They've dropped, various programs, bicycling, boxing. They used to have boxing back in the day. The colleges did. So they need to reinstate as many sports as possible, and we need to get those 20 million students in college and in the universities competing at those universities, and we need to get all of those 60 million youth that are competing opportunities to compete in college. Because look at the numbers, man. The numbers are crazy. Okay, someone who competes in athletics and doesn't compete in athletics, where they end up down the road from a mental, spiritual, physical, it's night and day. So rather than having these athletes and these coaches make this stupid money, and oh, by the way, the things they promote, the NCAA is so busy promoting LGBT events and Black Lives Matters events rather than opening up opportunities for the youth in America. We're here. Listen, I'm here today. Okay, you men are here today. We aren't getting paid to do this. We love God. We love our country. We love our kids. We want opportunity for our children, not for liberal, crazy policies. And we don't want football players and wrestlers and basketball players who you're ruining. They think they're helping those kids. They're becoming bust outs. They're falling apart. And we talked about this. I mean, you give a 17, 18-year-old $1 million, $5 million, a kid from the University of Miami, supposedly. You give them these wrestlers, they're going to give them $2.5 million to wrestle at $500,000 a year. I mean, is the number. Like, oh my God, what are you guys doing? You're going to ruin the kids. You're going to ruin the sports. Cut it out. And if you can't cut it out, NCAA, you're the ones that are permitting this. If you can't cut this out, you need to be stopped by our Congress and by our Senate and by the President of the United States. This is bullshit. It needs to stop now, because I don't know. Look, I don't know anybody in the country, you guys can respond to this, that is watching football more or less. They're probably watching it less, or basketball more or less, probably less, and wrestling more or less, because they're disgusted. The alumni are disgusted. The former athletes who competed are disgusted. And look, it's not a matter of us. There's no jealousy. I mean, I love these kids. I'm all for the kids, but it's pathetic that the NCAA is doing it to these kids, because they're ruining them. They think they're helping them, and they're ruining them. You guys want to comment on that?
Well, let me at this point say we're running. We're just about at the back end of our time limit on this. So what I'd like to do is, if we can, with you, Andrew, have you kind of sum up what you hope? Because this, I know Dennis wants to get this in front of some very important people, both politically and also within the wrestling. Uh, um, what's the name of the website? Intermat.
The
Folks who
internet
want that.
guys, we're going to go to a bunch of people out in the wrestling community, and we look.
Right.
We want we go ahead. We wanted to stop.
Okay, I'm going to let you have the final word on that, Dennis. But Andrew, you've played a very important part in this program, and thank you for the research that you've done. Um, Knowing where this podcast is going to go, what concluding remarks would you give?
Well, we just need to see reform and leadership out of the NCAA. That's what everyone wants. You know, as we said in basketball and football and wrestling, as these sports continue to grow, continue to garner more money and more money and more money, we just need leadership. And what that means is just having some type of commissioner role, oversight, or anything that allows for the kids to thrive. Because that's what we really want. That's all anyone really wants. If we as a society, as a collegiate society, what am I trying to say? Group. We're trying to come together and do what's actually best for the kids and allow them to profit off their own name, image, and likeness. That's fine. But what we're talking about is in excess of millions and millions and millions of dollars. And the people that are able to garner that money, as I showed, are in the 1%, the 0.5%. So what we need to do is think about, we're not talking about the 1%. We're not talking about the quarterback of the number one team in the country. We're not talking about the national championship wrestler. We're talking about the women's volleyball team, the men's baseball team, the lacrosse, the track team. Those kids are also lumped into this. And how does that affect them? How does that affect their collegiate experience and benefit them? We know all the top end stuff, all the big number stories, but really, how is it going to affect the college athlete that wants to get an education and might not be going pro? They might have an Olympic dream, but might not have anything past that. So just to be, Dennis, this, just to be an Olympian is a true accomplishment and an honor. So just to be that is something. To go past that and to just foster that into, again, to give these kids an excellent opportunity at an education and a better life, to raise your stock as an individual, as your family, and to move forward and to be able to prosper as an individual throughout the rest of your life. That's all anyone ever wants. Not to live in the Wild West where, people take advantage and numbers get astronomical and the little guy gets forgotten. That's the end.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. Dennis, you're spearheading this. You're doing it with great passion. You're doing it with great credentials.
Thank you so much, Attorney Ross.
Sure.
I'm so blessed to have you and Andrew, and your support and your prayers. But, it's like Andrew was just saying, really what's going to happen is it's going to become 12 football teams, 4 or 5 wrestling teams, a couple basketball teams, and the smaller schools are going to end up dropping their athletics. They're going to drop their lacrosse. They're going to drop their volleyball, their wrestling. If it stays at the level where it's at right now, it's going to be. It is so urgent that there's a intervention, and these nuts that are running the NCAA get themselves straightened out. Because my main concern are the kids. I love the kids, man. I have 8 beautiful children, man, and it's awesome. As a parent to be able to go and watch them and support them. You lived it, Rob. You've given it to your father, Andrew, and your parents. But the thing is, and here's one of my big problems right now. We got the new health secretary, and I don't care for him one way or the other. This Kennedy guy, he wants to stop kids from eating Cheerios. Give me a break. What you're doing right now, NCAA, is you are going to have these kids taking every type of performance-enhancing drugs. That's what they're doing. Say high school kids now. I mean, there's been a problem in college. We all know about it. We've been a problem in the NFL. And, it's sort of gone to sleep. When's the last time we've heard someone flunked a drug test? I don't think they're even giving them anymore. So what they're going to do, we have this drug epidemic. This is going to just multiply it because kids are going to go, oh, man, I'm going to do steroids or this or that or what or when. I'm not getting tested. I'm going to be a stud in high school and someone's going to give me $1 million. I mean, that's garbage. So what the NCAA is doing, it's all a negative multiplier effect. Everything is just going downhill because these idiots that are running the NCAA, and they need to get straightened out like now. And I'm sorry that I'm so. If they don't, if they don't, nothing good's going to happen. There's going to be less kids. We talked about this. There's going to be less kids competing because the bigger schools are going to be so powerful that the other schools are going to drop their programs so they could spend the money on the NIL and spend the money on coaching and try to possibly compete. So it's going to it's having such a negative multiplier effect. And these young guys, I'm telling you, man, they're crazy. When you're young, man, you're young, you're nuts. You can take on the world. So what are they going to do? Oh shit, I'm going to go buy some drugs. And look, I've talked to big time Division I coaches. I have friends of mine that are Division I coaches in football, wrestling, and look, these kids on their phones can buy anything. Okay, they can buy any drug from A to Z in their backyard on these phones. That's how bad it is. That's how bad the drug epidemic is. So what I would tell Kennedy, don't worry about Cheerios. Okay, we need to get the drugs out of our high schools and out of our colleges, and we need to get more kids competing in athletics. And that's where stopping the NCAA and this absurd protocols that they're promoting needs to stop. And that's what I pray that our Heavenly Father and Jesus and the Holy Spirit intervene and look out for these young men and women and help them to advance themselves as we did, and the opportunities we had equally for young ladies and for young men. And look, and any of those of you, and it seems as though the NCAA is having trouble with figuring this out. This is supposed to be the academia of the world. They're supposed to be smart and base their conclusions on sound science and sound truths. For them to continue to dabble in there being, no, there's two genders. Just be truthful. There's men and women. There's no other gender, and they haven't got no business competing against females, and it needs to stop. Because I know the head of the NCAA today, my wife told me it was on the news. He's like, well, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? You're supposed to be representing the National Collegiate Athletic Association, and you don't know? For God's sake, they need to get taken over. In all honesty, and I mean that, and it needs to happen sooner than later.
Dennis, your passion is just coming right through the screen, and it's wonderful. I would also add that hopefully this podcast or some of the others that we've done are start reaching parents of young athletes. And that they, whether they're in junior high, high school, or college, will speak to their congressmen and will speak to their senators that if the NCAA doesn't act, that the Congress does need to bring this before a really searching investigatory committee to see what could be done about it. Listen, I thank both of you. It's been a great presentation. Dennis, I hope this podcast really does help with the folks that you're going to send it to. I know that we of the USA Citizens Network are going to make it available to our members, and let's hope that it really. I think, Dennis, you're a prophet. You're ahead of most of us. Like Andrew said earlier, he loves to see Oregon play Penn State. When I first heard that they extended the 7 games into the season, I said, well, great, that's more football for me to see. Not thinking about what these the really bad side effects, not side effects, direct effects are having on these young people. So anyway, congratulations to you, Dennis, and to you, Andrew. And for that, I thank you, and we will conclude this podcast.